Is that working? I think it might be. Oh my gosh. Yeah, success. Oh, I'm so relieved. Oh my gosh. Oh, that was really stressful. Okay. Right. So, in classic energy, that was completely scuffed. Let's pretend that that didn't happen. Honestly, I've gone away for what? What was that? I've gone away for a few, like a week, not even 2 weeks, and I'm already just breaking stuff. That's just incredibly on brand, to be honest. I did my best, and my best was not good enough. Anyway, you know what? That's completely thrown me, and now I've forgotten how I was actually going to start the stream. So that's great. A Psydere stream was not on your bingo card. No, it wasn't on mine either. But you know what? Okay, right. I've got an entire story. I've got an entire story, and I'm just going to tell it. So I had to disappear suddenly because I am very silly and I managed to injure my arm. um, so my work, we did like this. How can I describe it? I guess we did like a team building thing, where we were all gonna come in and spend some time together, play some games, like in person games, have some fun, like do activities, and it largely went okay. But I literally picked up a foam ball, and my arm, like my shoulder, was just like, you know what, today I die. Um, so I managed to like sprain a muscle just by picking up a soft, squidgy foam ball, which is kind of impressive. That's what I get for playing snakes and ladders with actual snakes and ladders. Honestly, I wish it was that cool, but it was like a basketball thing. You know that thing where you have to like throw, like a beanbag competition where you throw beanbags into different baskets and like you get points. I didn't even throw the beanbag. I picked it up, and my shoulder was just like, wow, she's weak. I'm just gonna die now. So yeah, I sprained my shoulder, and I couldn't actually sit at my desk or write or anything. Um, and that was kind of stressful, to be honest, because my whole livelihood is centered around being at a PC. And then my doctor was like, "You are banned from PCs. Like you are not allowed to sit at your desk. You are not allowed to do anything. Basically, I wasn't allowed to write. I wasn't allowed to type. I wasn't allowed to use a mouse. Couldn't draw. Couldn't I couldn't even like reach up. I couldn't open jars and stuff like that. It was really weird. Very stressful. But I'm back. I had a appointment today, and I was officially cleared to sit at a desk again. I still have to minimize how much I'm using a mouse, which is why I'm trying to just ease in with a just chatting stream. Because I didn't want to just sit here and just not stream because I enjoy it. It's fun. No more Lego Star Wars. Yeah, honestly, like okay, so Lego. Bleh. Honestly, I've gone away for a bit and I've forgotten how to English. Lego Star Wars should be fine because I've got a controller, but other games where I would use a mouse, I'm not allowed to do them. Well, I'm starting to be able to do them again, but not quite yet. She said I have to kind of minimize my repetitive movements because it was, yeah, kind of like a mixture of like a repetitive strain injury that went too far, basically. It was like a repetitive damage over and over and over again that made my muscle really weak, and then it just the smallest thing just snapped it, basically. So yeah, I was officially cleared to game again. Yeah, honestly, I was very excited. Like I asked her outright, "Is it okay if I go back on Crab Champions?" And she was like, "Yes." So I can officially Crab Champions again, but not too much. Uh, Lego Star Wars is absolutely fine. I can do Lego Star Wars as much as I want because I've got a controller. So yeah, it's very exciting. But it's also kind of annoying because I'm still not allowed to sit and type and do mouse things. So like I can't make presentations or anything still unless I do it with my left hand, which is not my dominant hand. It's easier said than done, to be honest. But yeah, I'm doing my best. I'm getting on the way to being fixed. And I have been given a whole bunch of exercises to do. So if I keep doing them, I should be good. I should be okay, and I'll be healed up in about 4 weeks, and then I can go back to just doing whatever I want, which is very cool. Although I still can't reach up into cupboards, which is a bit annoying. Definitely missed harassing the droids. Yeah, honestly, that was like the main thing I missed doing. I do miss harassing the droids. It is very fun, although they do not deserve it. Also, that music was definitely kind of Kung Fu Panda-y, wasn't it? I realized I completely ignored that comment. It was very Kung Fu Panda, which is a film that I forgot existed until very recently when I there was like a YouTube video that came up in my recommended that was like analyzing the animation in Kung Fu Panda or something, and it was like, this is how you set up a really good action scene. Or maybe was it on YouTube? It might not have been on YouTube. It might have been somewhere else. But yeah, it was like an analysis of how exactly they used film theory to set up the Kung Fu Panda, like the bridge scene, which is pretty cool. That's the second person that's mentioned Kung Fu Panda today. What's going on? What's with the Kung Fu Panda hype? We're coming back. When did it even come out? I don't even remember. Wait, I need to look this up. Kung Fu Panda, when did it come out? 2008? Oh my lord. We're back on that Kung Fu Panda return. To be fair, there's like 17 of them or something now, so there's probably more Kung Fu Pandas. There might even be a new one. Who knows? There's a new one coming out next year. Oh my gosh. Why do they do this to franchises now? Just let it die. The first one was good. Leave it. A new movie coming out on the 8th. Yeah, okay, right. So it's on the 8th of March next year. Wow, okay. Maybe the Kung Fu Panda hype is real. Who knows? Maybe we're all here for Kung Fu Panda, really. Oh, the Kung Fu Panda was pretty cool, though. It was a pretty good film. From what I remember, I've probably not seen it in over 10 years, but, you know, I remember it being good. Yeah. So, Kung Fu Panda aside, yeah, so like I said, I wanted to do a just chatting stream because it's just, I don't know, I wanted to like ease back into getting used to talking as a, you know, streaming thing again, because I have been doing a lot of talking this week, but like to in-person people, and I've kind of forgotten how streaming works, as was evidenced by the fact I couldn't turn on my microphone. So yeah, I put up a poll on Instagram and asked, like, if I was hypothetically going to do a just chatting stream, what topics would you be interested in? And the overwhelming majority of people said my experiences working in mental health services, which I did actually, believe it or not, I did work in mental health services. Before I went into research, I really wanted to be like a clinical psychologist, so helping people with mental health problems. And I did not go down that route in the end. It wasn't what I expected for a whole range of reasons, which maybe we can go into if you're interested. But yeah, so it's 71% of people said they were interested in my experiences working in mental health services. So it's clearly a topic that people are they feel strongly about, actually. The second choice was the day in the life of a research psychologist, which got 29% of the votes. So maybe we'll do that another time. But yeah, mental health services. Oh, they're wacky. Oh, the Kung Fu Panda Nickelodeon series was pretty cool. Not sure about the movies though. Oh, I never watched the series. I didn't even know there was one, so that shows how up to date I am on my Kung Fu Panda lore. The only thing I remember was that the panda was voiced by Jack Black. That's literally like the only thing I remember. And then there was a snake. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got. Day in the life. Let's see how you really trap. Yes. I'll divulge all of my secrets about how I actually get people in to do my studies and then experiment on them, which I think is a very useful manipulation tactic to use. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't manipulate people. I only use volunteers. um, but yeah, huh? I only use volunteers. There's no manipulation happening here. Um, but yeah, NHS. So NHS. I should clarify what that is. So for those of you who aren't in the UK, we have a National Health Service, NHS. So NHS stands for National Health Service. And it's like a social healthcare model, I guess. So people pay their taxes and then they go to the service that they want to use and they get free treatment, in theory. That's how it's meant to work. If it looks like I keep looking down, it's because I am. I've actually written out some stuff because there's some things that I really want to say and there's also some things I really do not want to say. Yes. But I figured, the first thing I'd really like to know is what your questions are really. Like what's interesting, because I can kind of give you a brief description of what it was like working there, but maybe there's certain things that you guys are more interested in. Hi Jack, you are fashionably late. Don't worry, I was also fashionably late to my own stream as usual. So it's fine. We're always fashionably late in this channel. It's all good. Right. How Yeah. I figured it might be too broad to just ask what are you interested in? What was it like working at the NHS? I have many opinions about the NHS and working there. And it's probably easier for me to just kind of go through what I was actually doing, first of all, isn't it? So yeah, let me bring up my notes. You're interested in brains? Well, that's good because I actually looked at some brains. Like literally, I looked at some brains. That was pretty cool, actually. Actually, you know what? Since you like brains, shall we start with the brains? We'll start with the brains. Okay, so. Huh? Yeah, I looked at brains. Yeah. So, a big part of being any kind of, what do they taste like? Oh, I didn't look at them that way. Although, what would a brain taste like? I know there's some cultures that do eat brains, but like animal brains. You should ask them. I don't know. I don't eat brains. I'm not a zombie, and I'm not I don't eat brains in general, to be honest. It's not really a thing that I'm interested in doing. But if I were to guess, I would say they probably taste like every other squishy organ. Do we really want to know? Yeah, it's a slightly unhinged question, to be honest, Jack. Tastes like chicken. Not everything tastes like chicken. And people always say that frog legs taste like chicken as well, and I'm like, really? They must taste different. There's no way. Don't ask how I know. I'm scared. I'm really scared. You're scaring me. Okay. How do I know what other squishy organs taste like? That's a secret. I can't divulge that information. If I think it's chicken, then it tastes like chicken. That is just a self-fulfilling prophecy, my friend. If you think it tastes like chicken and then it does taste like chicken, the psychology word for that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're expecting the thing and then the thing happens. So, yeah. Quit telling yourself it tastes like chicken when it doesn't. Sort yourself out. Okay, right. For real. Okay. I do not know what organs taste like. I do not eat squishy organs in general, normally, but British cuisine do be kind of wild. So maybe I have had... No, yeah, I have had squishy... Yeah, no, I've had squishy organs at some point, actually. Yeah, no, I have. Oh dear. Okay. Okay, right. Okay, I need to clarify now. So, in British cuisine, there is this thing that's like, well, there's a dish that's just like liver and kidneys, and it's a very like, it's a boomer food basically. Nobody eats it anymore, but because it's kind of grim. But I was made to try it a few times when I was younger, and then there's also tripe, not human. No, 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 not human. No, it's like animals. What is tripe again? Is that intestines? Oh, it's wait. No, it's stomach. Okay, so I've had tripe before, which is stomach. But I don't eat this stuff anymore, so this is irrelevant. But yeah, I've had various parts of a cow that probably aren't meant to be eaten. When I was growing up, because we used to eat strange things. So yeah, there you go. So I do in fact know what squishy organs taste like. Liver, liver kind of tastes like, yeah, fuck British food. I'm also British. Yeah, honestly, like British food is just wild. It's either beige or it's like organs that were not they're not they're not normally eaten. It's very, yeah, it's it's something. It's something. Let's put it that way. Like the peak British food would be like deep fried organs. Like that's it. Oh yeah, shepherd's pie is pretty good. It is, to be honest. It's pretty good. Scotch eggs. I'm not mad on Scotch eggs. I think because yeah, no, I never really. Scotch eggs are like they're like food that you're taking out on like a long car journey, and you feel kind of depressed while you're eating them. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of Scotch eggs. Depends how you cook the shepherd's pie. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Some of okay, right. If you don't put it in the oven to make sure it has a crispy top, then what is the point? I knew somebody who didn't like give it a crispy top, and then also it's way better when you put cheese on it. So do you not cook it like any pie? No. So shepherd's pie is like minced meat in like a kind of gravy sauce, and then it's mashed potato on top. And then it is sometimes you put cheese on top of that. But no, it's not. It doesn't look anything like a normal pie. They're totally different. I think if you know what moussaka is, then it's closer to moussaka, I think. But not really. Or like lasagna, it's like layered in the same way. But there's only two layers because we're British, so we can only do two layers. We can't do more than that. We can only count to two. Shepherd's pie is a cooked person who herds sheep. The sheep eat the pie. Jack, can you not spread misinformation in my chat, please? I don't appreciate that. The sheep do not eat the pie. We leave it out on the hill for the crows. Come on. No, shepherd's pie is actually good. It's yeah, the mincemeat in gravy sauce, and then mashed potato, and then sometimes cheese if you're feeling adventurous. But no, it's good. It's good. I promise. I promise. It's the only good food we have, really, to be honest. Apart from some of our sweets are all right, I guess. Yeah. No, that's all I can think of. Yeah. Okay, right. Food discussion aside, back to the NHS. If I was good at making segues, I would have said something about hospital food, but like, no, I got nothing. I've not been. I've taken too long of a break, and I can't do segues anymore. It's terrible. The Brits are dubious fellows, to be honest. We are. We're incredibly sus. If I can make people think. Oh no. If I can make people think Britain is a shithole, which it is, then I can save the people from the trauma of coming here. You know what, Jack? I think you're just being negative. There's nothing wrong with the place apart from the people and the weather and the food and the government and the health system. Speaking of the health system, let's talk about the health system. I wanted to go to uni after I'm done with uni. Not anymore, probably. I don't want to be eaten. Honestly, it's yeah. I think it's interesting for a cultural experience, but we're not really the best place to move to be honest. For various reasons, which are political in nature, and I won't necessarily go into on the stream. But I don't know. Maybe one day I'll go into them. Okay, I know there's like a VTuber thing about you never talk about politics, but like I'm also a psychologist, and so much political stuff affects people's psychology and vice versa. Like there's so much psychology about people's politics, and like how they interact with the political system and stuff like that. And I feel like that's important for me to address. I'm still just trying to work out the right way to do it in a way that won't get me cancelled. Because I know that people really do not like it when VTubers talk about politics. But yeah, I need to have a think about how much I'm willing to say. So yeah, but if you're interested in any political topics and you think it might be fun to delve into the psychology of them, let me know, because that's more directly into my area of expertise. So yeah, I would be happy to talk about that, because social psychology, a lot of it involves political stuff. I did hear the weather. The weather is nice. Yeah, I don't know where you heard that because it's not true. Yeah. I'm a northerner by default. We don't like Britain. Honestly, I don't know anyone that actually does. Like, I've never. I know that Britain is like the standard place to clown on because we all clown on it. And I've never actually met somebody who doesn't clown on the UK. It's really interesting. Really interesting. What is going on here? Why are we the default? Is it because of the way we treated other people? Actually, that would make sense now that I think about it. Oh wow. Hi Lord to Basil, how are you? We're meant to be talking about my experiences in the health service, but so far we've talked about eating organs and why the UK is a bit rubbish. So it's going really well. Speaking of why the UK is a bit rubbish, you're all right. Good. Speaking of why the UK is a bit rubbish is probably the worst attempt at a segue I've ever tried to do, but we're doing it. We're rolling with it. So NHS. So as I was saying before, I was interrupted by the organs discussion. So the NHS is the UK's national health service. So it's a socialised healthcare system where we pay our taxes, and then because we're paying taxes, we should be getting free treatment. So we say it's free at the point of contact. So you can go to your doctor and it's free. That's how it's meant to work. Hello. How should I refer to you? Oh, should I just refer to you as Meta Knight 1919 or Meta? Can I just call you Meta on here? Is that okay? I know who you are, but yeah, I don't know what name to use. Yes, the organs discussion. Yes, this is going to be a very interesting running joke for everybody who joins the stream, isn't it? But yeah, so in the NHS, there's different services which all they all do different things. So the NHS is like a big kind of countrywide system, and it's full of little services and little what we call trusts. So they're kind of like regional units, I guess. I don't even know how to describe them. They call them trusts because it's meant to sound like a charity, but that's not right. They're like organisations which cover areas of the UK. Hi Roots, how are you? You missed us talking about eating organs, I think. So the NHS is divided up into these trusts, and they all kind of specialise in different things, or they focus in a different area. So I don't know, for example, there might be a NHS trust in Liverpool that is called the Liverpool Health Trust, and then there might be one in Birmingham called the Birmingham Health Trust, and so on, around all of the places in the UK. And within the trusts, they offer a whole bunch of services. Sometimes you're not talking about organs and is very distracting. But sometimes the trusts will kind of specialize on a specific type of service. So, for example, there might be a trust that specializes with cancer, or there might be a trust that specializes with mental health, or there might be a trust that specializes in I don't know, helping people in the community with various chronic illnesses. So you're always here for UK slander. I have a feeling this might be a recurring theme in my streams, to be honest. London sucks. Honestly, yeah. 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 Oh. Oh dear. Now I'm just like mentally going off on a tangent like of the best and worst places in the UK, and I feel like that might be a fun tier list to do at some point, but we're not doing it today because I swear I am going to talk about the NHS. You cannot stop me. You are trying to stop me from talking about the NHS by disrailing me with organs and Liverpool FC and London slander, and it's not happening. We are talking about the NHS. Okay. Class, control yourself. Get under control. Honestly, don't make me bring in the substitute teacher to tell you all off, honestly. I know that I'm new and young, but there's no excuse for you to be disrupting my class like this. Okay, NHS. We are talking about the NHS, the National Health Service, which we use to get our healthcare in the UK. Right. So, the services that I worked in were all mental health services. So that means that they just, well, it kind of does what it said on the tin, really. They just helped people with mental health problems. But there are a whole bunch of different services that can be within mental health services as an umbrella. So there's like layers upon layers going on here, which is really overwhelming. The services that you could work in or that could be offered include things like community mental health. So that's trying to help people out in the community who are suffering from mental health problems and try and support them. They're still going about their daily lives. They might still be working or they might not. They might be just, living in their own home, or they might be living with family or something like that. But the whole point is to try and keep them in their daily routine and to offer support around that routine. There's also inpatient services. So when somebody is really, really struggling and they need a bit more support on a daily basis, they might go into an inpatient service. So this is kind of what would traditionally be labelled like a psychiatric ward, I guess. So yeah, it means that they're in the hospital on a ward. They are surrounded by staff 24/7. They're surrounded by other patients as well. So yeah, they're getting a lot more support on a daily basis. And then there can also be kind of additional specialist services as well. So for example, in some parts of the UK, there are eating disorder services that just specialise in helping people that are suffering from eating disorders. So for example, anorexia and bulimia, where, they either don't eat enough or they eat a lot, and then the medical term is purge it back up, if you catch my drift. And then there can also be specialist services, for example, with people with learning disabilities, so trying to help diagnose things like dyslexia. There can be more specialist community services as well. So some people, if they're not struggling so much that they need to go into hospital, then they do need more support than the community team can offer them. They might go to a day facility. So they'll just they'll go there kind of 9 to 5 and then they'll go back home. So there's like a whole bunch of different choices in terms of service, and all of that together is meant to work in a nice set of harmony, and it should, in theory, provide comprehensive care to everybody who needs it. I say in theory because, unfortunately, it's meant to work. It doesn't always. Which maybe we can get into. But yeah, I worked across a whole bunch of different services. I kind of checked off a little bit of everything, to be honest. And I'm not going to say what my job titles specifically were, and I'm not going to say what services specifically I worked in, but just trust me when I say I covered a fairly substantial range of things. But yeah, I don't want to get doxxed, so I'm not telling you what they were exactly. Okay, right. Sorry, I was waffling on and I was completely ignoring the chat. But then it seems like it was just mostly you listening to me when I was telling you off, so that's good. There's more than two layers. Yeah, honestly, yeah, the British systems in general, we love bureaucracy. So there will be like layers upon layers upon layers of organization that doesn't necessarily need to be there. Which in all honesty was like a kind of defining feature of my time working for the NHS was you have to like coordinate 7 different services basically to try and get this one person the help that they need, which is really, really, really stressful. uh, let's see. Practically, it's not always going to work. It's like a BMW driver's using their indicators. Sometimes they use it, and sometimes they don't. Honestly, yeah, it should work. I think that yeah, it's more like a car that's just needlessly complicated. It's got 17 million buttons, and you don't know what half of them do. So you just kind of randomly stab at them until it works. It's kind of more like that, to be honest. You're like, oh, I don't know if this person should go to this service or this service because they kind of the descriptions look roughly the same, but they've got slightly different criteria. And then you just kind of just choose one and see if it works, and if it doesn't, then you go to the other. It's a bit of a mess, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, the jobs that I did were kind of a mix, which meant that the stuff that I did was also a mix. So I've mentioned that there's a lot of bureaucracy in the NHS, and yeah, that was like overwhelmingly my experience was just doing a lot of admin work, but also just the systems being really, really out of date. So like one of the services that I worked in, so you have like waiting lists, right, with patients on it, like all of their details. It will be, like their name, contact number, who to contact in an emergency, their address, stuff like that, how long they've been waiting, what they've been referred for, any diagnoses that they have. One of the services that I worked in, that was entirely done on an Excel spreadsheet, which was disturbing. And there was like no monitoring of how long people had been on the waiting list. Yikes. Yeah, it was yikes. It was a massive yikes. I don't think it's GDPR compliant, to be honest. Because anybody in the service could have accessed it, even though it was like psychology, like just psychology was meant to have access to it, and everybody could access it. It was just like, oh yeah, I trust you not to type of thing. But then also there was another one where I worked at where it was literally just a whiteboard. And there were a few times where they thought that somebody was being discharged out of the service, so they wouldn't need the help of the service anymore. And someone had wiped them off the board because of that, but then we needed to contact them, or they needed to be brought back into the service, and it turns out the discharge wasn't right. And yeah, it was gone. We didn't have it anymore. So we were like, well, now what? So we had to like dig through what we remembered of their details to try and look it up on the system and try and find them again. Your dad said the same thing when he worked in the NHS. They use those analog stuff. Yeah, honestly, I mean, it was probably great for him if he's really bad with modern stuff, but for me, it was terrible because I'm sat there like I have to use a fax machine and I don't know what that is, and I don't know how to use it, and they're making me dial in numbers and stuff like that, and I'm sat there like, what even is this? I don't know what this is. I'm scared. Like relying on faxes, and this is like in the 2010s that I worked. Well, yeah, the 2010s that I worked in the NHS, and it's like you are still using fax machines then. This is really upsetting. But yeah, The other thing that was, it was like way back in the 70s. It actually was. So the other thing that really, really stressed me out was that every patient that I worked with had like massive medical histories. So they were normally people that had been in mental health services on and off since they turned 18 or even younger. And they would come in and they would have like digital records that, so they have a really secure system for digital records on, but so that was fine, and you can search through them really easily. But there was a lot of people who had massive folders of paper notes that had not been touched in about 20 years. So I remember once I was asked to do like a review of somebody's medical history, and I had to order some paper notes, and I was like, okay, whatever, fair enough. It's going to be like a folder, right? No, what turned up was, those like really big moving boxes for like when you're moving house, the ones that are like half the size of a person. I got 5 of them. 5 boxes. Like stacked up, they were like 3 times the size of me, because I'm kind of short, but like they were big. And then I turned around to like the rest of the team and I was like, that is excessive. Do you really need me to go through this? And they were like, yeah. So I had to spend the next 4 weeks going through one person's medical history because there was just so much of it. And obviously, I wasn't doing it 24/7, right? I was doing like maybe 2 or 3 hours a day going through these records. But oh my gosh, it took so long. And like none of it was indexed properly. So I had to actually just go through and check every single bit of paper. Like I couldn't just flip sections over and ignore them. I had to go through every single bit. It was so much. But then it was kind of worse because as I was going through it, so they had crack out the coffee machine. We've got some reading to do. Honestly, that actually was me, except we didn't have a coffee machine. We had to buy our own stuff actually. So I think I would just normally go to Costa or something, Costa Coffee. No, we did not have a coffee machine. What do you take me for? This is the NHS. We can't afford nice things. No coffee machine. Why are you surprised by that? We can't afford nice things. We didn't even have a dishwasher in our kitchen. In fact, I don't even think we had an oven in our kitchen. I think we just had a microwave and a fridge, and that was it. Wait, I need some tea. This is stressing me out. Okay, tea has been drunk. It must have been hell. Honestly, like the buildings were old. There was no coffee machine. There was only one toilet for like 100 staff. It was stressful. No, we had to buy our own tea. We had to buy our own tea bags and milk. And like, so I can't have like normal milk, so I had to go out and get soy milk. And like, there was only 3 other people that wanted to do it with me, and I wasn't even okay. In the first job that I had in the NHS, it was like voluntary. I didn't even get paid, so I was not getting paid, and I had to go out and buy my own tea bags and milk. Honestly, it was. Oh, I have strong opinions. You took turns boiling the water for ramen in that microwave. No, we had a kettle, to be fair. We did have a kettle. We had a kettle and a microwave, and I think we might have had a toaster that somebody brought in from home. Bankruptcy. Yes. You can't be bankrupt if you never had any money to begin with, though. So, yeah. But yeah, that was wild. But the worst thing with this notes thing, with the 5 boxes of notes, so these 5 boxes of notes, they had this person's entire medical history, but like every single time it was as though they started again. So like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to put this into words because it stresses me out. Like every single person that every single time that this person had gone into a new NHS service, which sometimes was like 7 times in a year because they went into one and then they did an assessment and then they were like, this is the wrong service, and transferred them somewhere else. They did the same thing every single time. They wrote up exactly the same notes, basically. And based on these notes, it was very clear that the people who had been working with this person previously had like kind of developed a formulation, which is kind of a fancy way of saying like, here are all of the factors that we think are contributing to this person's mental health difficulties. And I apparently was the only person that actually went back and read the notes rather than relying on what the previous assessment said the notes said, because every single one of them basically just came to the conclusion that like this person was just, they were just dealing with some stuff that can't be explained. And if I remember correctly, they'd been diagnosed with psychosis, so they were like hearing voices telling them to do things. And the voices were telling them to do very, very specific things. And everyone just assumed that it was just like a thing that couldn't be controlled and it just came out of nowhere. Because some people, they just, it's like a genetic thing. Like they just hear voices and they tell them to do things. But I went back through all of the notes to the very first assessment and also a few like subsequent ones as well. And it turns out that this person actually had a very, very significant trauma in their life that had happened fairly early on, which had been addressed in their assessments from when they were under 18. So it had been put in the notes. But then they had been transferred out of that service, the children's service, very quickly because they were too old. So I think they were about 17, and they had been sent straight to the adult service. And it was never brought up again. So this person had been in mental health services on and off for about 30 years, and they were never, ever properly, like the issues that they were having were never actually addressed, basically. And if somebody had just gone back and read the notes, or even just opened the first set of notes, they would have had the treatment that they needed a lot sooner, as in like decades earlier. And I don't know, it really stuck with me, because when I pointed it out to the psychologist that I was working with, they were like, wow, that's really important. I can't believe that we missed that. And I'm like, did you read the notes? And they're like, no, of course we didn't. We just relied on what the nurses told us. Like, it was, it upset me, because it's like there's somebody's whole life has been ruined because somebody didn't take 15 minutes to read some documents. So that was very stressful. But the worst part is that wasn't the only time it happened. There was probably 5 or 6 other times where I discovered things hidden in files, like patient files, that had went completely unaddressed up until that point. And I think that's really sad. There should be a way more consistent way to document people's histories, because it's so important. It's quite sobering knowing stuff like that can just happen. I know. It's honestly, it's like, I had a lot of really good experiences as well, but obviously the ones that stick out to me are the bad ones. And so there was loads of people who I saw, or who I read the notes for and did the summary for the psychologists, and it was exactly what it said in the notes. There was a few other people who what was in the notes did not match up with what they told us. And then you have to start questioning, well, are the professionals telling us everything that we need to know, or is the patient telling us the truth, you know? Or is there a possibility that the patient's understanding of what's happened has been warped by some traumatic experiences or the symptoms they're having? Because that's a possibility too. So it's like an entire complex process, which you have to have a lot of time, and you need to be in a good mental place yourself in order to do it properly. The problem is that oftentimes you can't be, because there's not enough time. Um, Another big issue that I saw over and over again was that people just did, like the staff just did not have enough time to do the things that they needed to do. So I remember there was one of the nurses in one of the services that I worked for who had 150 patients on her books, and she was meant to be checking up on them I think it was every 2 weeks. And it's like, how is she meant to do that? It's not possible. It's not possible. You cannot check up on 150 people every 2 weeks. You just can't. There's not enough time. And she didn't get any support to do it. And it's situations like that where some of the worst things can happen because you might miss a check-in with somebody that really, really needs it. So yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Oh, thank you, Jack. Enjoy the lurking and your editing. Yes. And also your food. Enjoy. But thank you for lurking. We always appreciate it. But yeah, that brings me on to like one of the main things that I had to do personally, which was assessments. So assessments are a really big part of any kind of psychology job. In order to understand why somebody's experiencing certain difficulties, you need to really get to know them as a person, and you need to get to know their history. And so that means that one of the main things that you have to do is like talk to them about it. Basically, you have to find out what's going on in their head. You have to find out what's happening in their life, and you have to see how all of that kind of comes together. Thank you for joining, Zach. Thank you for following. Thank you for joining the class. It's always nice to see new people. Yeah. So, in order to do that, you have to kind of do a bunch of things. So one of them is the looking through their notes. So part of the assessment is based on what other professionals are saying about your patient. So, for example, there might be a nurse or a occupational therapist, so somebody who kind of helps people in their daily routine, so kind of find a good routine. There might be a psychiatrist who is a medical doctor. And there can be psychologists as well. There can be previous psychologists who weigh in too. You were looking through the VTuber tag and a psychologist is a first? Yeah, I don't think there's many others. I think I know of one other, I think, who is Horatius the dwarf, who is a mental health professional. So please do check out his streams. But he's a dwarf. He's not an anime girl. How do I do a shout out again? Is it like this? I don't remember. I'll do it later. But yeah. Wait, actually. There you go. Horatius the dwarf. This is the only other psychology VTuber that I know about, but he is a dwarf. So he's more interested in fantasy stuff and Lord of the Rings games and things like that. But he does occasional psychology streams, which are very cool. But yeah, assessments. So a big part of understanding somebody's difficulties is just understanding where they come from. So what happened in their life, what kind of symptoms they're actually having. So what kind of mental health difficulties that they're actually going through. And then sometimes you want to talk to them a bit about why. Psydere out here reinventing the VTuber space. You know what? I'm trying. I want to make it more educational. Entertainment is good. Entertainment is very important. Yeah, you need entertainment in order to have a well-rounded life. But I'd like to teach people things as well, right? I hope that I can. Well, I mean, with the organs thing, maybe on both. Yeah. But sometimes you can, when you're assessing somebody, you can also do these like standardized tests. So for lack of a better explanation, they basically test all of your cognitive abilities You're sad you missed out on the organ conversation. Honestly, you shouldn't be. Don't be. You didn't. Don't be. It's I yeah. You're probably better off that way. Um, but yeah, the cognitive testing is really cool. You basically do a whole bunch of how can I describe them? They're just tasks, I guess. So, for example, you might be asked to draw a clock with the hands pointing to 5 minutes past 3 p.m. Or you might be asked to look at a maze and then find your way from the entrance to the key in the middle. Something like that. And basically they're all designed to test how your brain works, how you process information, how your memory works, how your attention works, how good your language abilities are, things like that. And they can give us a really good indication of where things are maybe going a little bit, they're maybe veering from what we may expect. Like tasks like in Among Us. How could you bring that up in my stream? Honestly, Among Us, disgusting. Yeah, very sus, very sus. Okay, right. That reminds me, I have an idea. Right. And you're all welcome to tell me that this is a terrible idea. But my idea is to ask a bunch of my IRL, like psychologist friends, to play Among Us on stream. What do we think? Because it can either go really, really well or really, really, really badly. Like, there could be so much, like, I don't know, so much hidden. I don't know what else to say apart from sussy shit. Like, oh. What has the internet done to me? But they so much manipulation. Oh, we've got okay. It seems like that's a good idea. Sussy. The internet has broken me. Like, I can't communicate like a normal person anymore. Yeah, we do need to find out who is the sussiest backer. We need to find out which psychologist is the sussiest backer, honestly. Like, yeah, I don't know who it could be. And I feel like there could be some real sussy backers going on. Because especially the people that focus on, like, I don't know, like communication and stuff like that. I don't know. I think it could be good. Among Us in real life, sus. I wonder if I can actually find some other game like that, like a multiplayer game, that would be good for psychologists. Because Among Us was the obvious one, because it's a meme. But what else? I don't know. The internet has permanently made clussy part of my vocab. I don't know, and I'm not sure I want to know. I'm scared. Cards Against Humanity is a really good idea. Secret Hitler and Town of Salem. I don't know what either of those are, but I'll look into them. They might be good ideas. Cards Against Humanity could either be really good or really bad as well. Or even just like Jackbox, I don't know. It could please no, don't answer it. I don't know. I don't want to know what a clussy is. Don't. Please. I'm a boomer and I do not need to know strange things. Yeah, okay, no. Okay. I still listen to Trash Taste. I know. Shameful. But I was listening to the one with Premier 2 on it the other day, and he was like, I thought that down bad meant like that you're having a bad time, like you're losing. And then he was like, when you get older, you can't keep up with all of this internet slang. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of get that. Because I kind of thought that was what it meant too. And I found out it wasn't. And I was like, oh my God. You were a young teacher 20 minutes ago and now you're a boomer. Why can't I be both? I think I can be both. I can be a young teacher and a boomer at the same time. Like, honestly, sometimes I worry that I've got really like hello fellow kids energy. You can't be both. I can be both. I can be. Okay, so I'm in my late 20s, but I feel like I have like I'm slow to pick up on things. I've got like 40-year-old energy sometimes. I don't use Facebook though, so you're an anime girl, you can be whatever you want to be. You're right. You're right. I can be a boomer teacher who is also young. I can be a cute anime, I don't know, cute anime girl who's young and then also has boomer energy. I can do that. I'd love to I'd love to do a stream where I just ask boomers what internet slang means. You know what? I'd love to see them try and navigate around what dumpy means. I don't know what dumpy means. Okay, right. I'll add that onto the list of things that we can do in the Among Us stream. I'll ask a bunch of 40-year-old psychologists what they think these words mean, and we will discover which of the psychologists are terminally online. Oh no, okay, I'm just getting a lot of oh no's, so I'm just going to assume that's a bad word. I don't need to know. I don't need to know. Don't ruin my pure innocent psychology brain. I think about statistics and the corpus callosum and nothing else. How could you? I think some of you need a psychology assessment, honestly. One of them is going to start crying of laughter hearing Closey if they were chronically online. Yeah, probably. I would expect that. One of my... I don't know if I should tell this story, actually. No, you know what? I will. Because it's anonymous, so it'll be fine. So... one of my co-workers told me we were talking about internet culture because academics love to talk about politics and they love to talk about internet culture as though they understand it, but they don't. So we were talking about that generally. And then one of my colleagues turned around to me and was like, so, I set up like a fake alt-right Twitter account. And I'm like, you did what? And then they were like, yeah. It started me showing me loads of like anime stuff. And I'm like, oh my lord, here we go. And then they're like, could you like, what do you think of this? And then they started showing me a bunch of memes. And I wish I was joking. There was K-On! Memes. And I have this theory about like the K-On! To fascism pipeline. And I felt very validated. So I think at some point I should do an unhinged presentation about my K-On! To fascism pipeline theory. Yeah. But yeah, it's always very weird when like internet culture seeps into professional interactions. Like it's very stressful. Another one of my colleagues has like a Reddit reference pin badge on their bag, and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know what to make of that, except now I know you're a Reddit user. I mean, K-On! Profile pictures are an instant dog whistle. No comment. Excuse me while I sip my tea. Anyway, yes. Psychology assessments are definitely needed in this chat. And what better way than for me to start telling you about how stressful standardized testing is? I would not be caught dead with anything Reddit related in real life. Yeah, same to be honest. I was like really surprised. I was really surprised. Like, yeah. But then I think this person is also kind of wholesome. So like they probably didn't realize the internet connotations people have with Reddit, if that makes sense. It's yeah. Yeah, no comment. Anyway, yes, assessments. So these assessments, you have to do tasks, not Among Us. You just do normal tasks, like looking at a list of words and repeating them back, kind of things that are meant to replicate how you would do things in real life, but there's like a reason for it. With each of the task, it's looking at very specific functioning. So, your attention, your language ability, your memory, things like that. And this is like the most stressful thing ever. It's really cool. Like, it's really fun doing it. Like, because you're basically just playing games with someone, to be honest. Like, it's fun. It's like doing board games. But it's also really scary because at the end, for most of them, or the ones that I used anyway, you have to go back and then like edit things. um, and then like, so you have to like go back. It's all just done on paper. At least it was when I was, because of course it was done on paper. They still use fax machines. We need to fax it to the doctor afterwards. But it's all on paper. You go back and then you have to like mark it like a test, like you're in school. It's wild. So you're going back, you're going through, you're writing your like assessment on the test, and then you're adding up their score. And this is the worst part of it, to be honest, because I'm really bad at maths. So I'd be there and I'd be like, yes, I'm adding this up. And then it's like, oh, this score suggests that you've got dementia. And then I'm like, wait, no, I forgot to add on a 10. Oh, no, you're fine. And like, if you don't catch it before you go and talk to the patient, they think that they are absolutely fucked. I know, right? Right? Dementia, right? That's what they're used for. They're used for things like dementia. They're used for things like learning disabilities, so or like neurodivergence. So for example, we had one that we used for dyslexia. We had one that we used for attention issues. We had one that we used for also some of them were just used generally. So we'd be like, oh yes, this is just a general test to see if your mental health problems are affecting how you think, basically. And so like, you're making really important decisions based on this test where you've just like jankily added it up on a calculator, and it's like, what no, this isn't right. Some of the newer services, the well-funded ones in London, they've got fancy like digital tests where it does it for you, so there's no chance of an error. But I never made an error, I would like to add, but there were a few times where I found an error in someone else's scoring, which was concerning. Normally it was somebody that was like kind of like they were on a deadline, they'd been given a deadline to do something and they were just rushing through it. But yeah, it's wild. Like, somebody's entire life can change just by missing out a number. But also, when you actually go back and do a proper assessment, when somebody hasn't necessarily had one for a while, or they haven't been done very well in the past, you can discover things. So there's one person that really stands out to me, which they had been in and out of mental health services literally their whole life. For like decades and decades. And they had been diagnosed with pretty much every single mental health condition under the sun, including some really quite stigmatized ones as well. So this person, I remember, had at some point in their life, they'd had a personality disorder label, which personality disorders, they're manageable, but some mental health professionals will see a personality disorder label and go like, oh, that's it, this patient is like, they're going to be difficult, they're like, we can't treat them, that's it, like, yeah. So that's not ideal. Personally, I think that's more of a reflection on the professionals than anything else, but people do unfortunately have those kinds of reactions. But I went through this person's medical history, and then I also did an assessment with them, and then I also sat in on an appointment that they had with a doctor, like a medical doctor, and I come out of these like appointments having done this assessment and having like read through all the notes, and I'm sat there like, I'm convinced that this person is like neurodivergent in some way. So neurodivergence is when you're the way that you think about things is basically just different from what would be considered typically developing by the majority of professionals. It's not necessarily yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's just different. Like, it's sometimes it can cause issues, but those issues tend to be more like mental health issues, around, you know, being treated badly by other people. For example, if somebody's like got a really, really intense interest, or if they really struggle to stay on one topic when they're talking, then people might treat them differently, and then that can cause mental health problems. But yeah, I came out of these assessments and I was like, this person is 100% neurodivergent in some way. And then I did a bit more digging, and then I found loads of information suggesting that they might be autistic, based on some stuff that had been in their child file, which was ignored. And I mentioned it to the psychologist, and the psychologist was like, huh, that is an interesting idea that has literally never been explored. And I left the service before they managed to do a formal assessment for it, but I got told like a year later that that it turns out they were autistic, and they had been going through years and years of treatment, including like electroconvulsive therapy, where they stick electrodes on your head and shock your brain for no reason. All of their symptoms were not actually mental health at all. It was just them being different. They weren't suffering because of their symptoms. They were suffering because of the way people were treating them. And yeah, that just, I don't know. To me, like, that was that, and then like the person who had the 5 boxes of notes. Those to me kind of encapsulate the importance of assessment, and that's why I enjoyed doing it, was because if you do an assessment really, really well, then that is one appointment that can potentially change that person's entire treatment trajectory, and it can change their whole life. And that is the impact that psychology can have, I think. And that's not even touching on things like therapy. I didn't do any therapy. I helped with some therapy as like an assistant, but I wasn't allowed to do it because I wasn't qualified enough. I'm still not qualified enough. I'm not a mental health professional. But therapy was not for me, to be honest. It's pretty intense. Yeah. To be honest, I've only got down like the first section on my bullet points, but I've already been streaming for over an hour, and I was only meant to stream for an hour. As like a to ease myself back into it, because I hurt my shoulder. Being neurodivergent can be really tough. Yeah, it can, especially when you're surrounded by people that don't understand it, which is definitely something we should be improving on in general, to be honest. But yeah, sorry to end it on a bit of a downer. On the bright side, that person then went on and their life changed significantly, and they ended up getting a job and everything. So, like, a job that was tying into their like their interests. So that was really cool. That was really nice. But yeah, that I don't know. I've kind of waffled a lot between talking about eating organs. This stream took a turn. Glad the person's doing better though. Yeah, it's the thing about psychology is that when you're working as a psychologist, it can be very, like, the ups and downs are quite intense. It can be quite, you see people at their absolute lowest. A lot of the times you will see them improve. Unfortunately, sometimes you don't. They will just keep being really, like, in a really difficult situation, or they've got patterns of behavior that you just can't intervene on, because something, like, in order for somebody to make a change in their life using psychological techniques, they need to want it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who they've been in the pattern that's harming them for so long, it's just easier for them to stay in that pattern. Yeah, so unfortunately, there are some people that don't improve. Their lives don't necessarily get better. There's also some people that, yeah, it all goes horribly wrong for them. But overall, generally, things are okay. in general, people get better, I think. That was what I saw anyway. Right. I am now going to go back onto my Streamlabs thing and attempt to work out how to give somebody a shout out, because I said that the only person I know, or the only person I know of, rather, I don't know him personally, but the only person I know of who also does psychology content as a VTuber is Horatius the dwarf, and I don't remember how to do a shout out. It's not SO, it's maybe I should make it that though. Oh, yay, it worked! It worked! Success. Okay. Yeah, so Horatius is the only other person I know who does psychology stuff as a VTuber. He is a dwarf, so he does it as more like fantasy focused. His examples are kind of like games and fantasy orientated. I'm glad the stream was fun. I'm glad it was fun and interesting. I feel like it was mostly just me rambling and being annoyed about the state of the health service, to be honest, but that was kind of predictable, to be honest. Yeah, it's quite difficult to not rant about it when you've worked there, to be honest. It's not, yeah, it's the thing. It's the thing. Yeah. But, you know, next time I'm going to do something probably a bit more fun. I think we've still got some Lego Star Wars to play. So I don't really have a set stream schedule at the moment because everything's kind of all over the place with the holidays coming up and all that. But also I'm going away. I'm going on a holiday. Wild. So I'm not going to be around for a little bit as well. But I think we need to get back into some Lego Star Wars. And then I also owe everybody some lectures. So we should do that too. I've got a draft schedule on my Instagram page, and also I think I'll put it on the YouTube community page as well when I've actually decided on it. But right now you can ignore the Twitch schedule because I'm not working. Like, I've been given a whole month and a bit off to deal with this shoulder injury. So yeah. Oh, I'm glad it was an entertaining and engaging ramble. I'm glad, because sometimes I worry I'm just talking and everyone's like, why are you talking? Like, stop. The final part of the stream definitely opened your eyes though. Yeah, to be honest, I don't like being negative. There's a lot of good things about working for the NHS and working in mental health services in general. It's amazing when you see somebody who's been struggling for so long and they finally start to make improvements in their life, and then their mental health starts getting better and they start taking better care of themselves. Like, it's wonderful to see it. It's just the whole thing's very emotionally draining, so it wasn't a career that was, it wasn't suited for me. But you know, that's fine. I'm good at the researchy things instead, so, and hopefully I'm also okay at teaching. So I'm going to stick to that because that's what I know and that's what I'm good at. Is the chat not here to hear you talk? This is true, actually. This is true. You have all come to listen to me waffle. So, yeah. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Thank you. So I think I'm trying to work out whether, you know, I always see other people who are like, oh yeah, I'm going to check if this person is still streaming and what they are doing, and then we will raid them. And I'm having a boomer moment. I can't work out how to have multiple things happening at once. Someone that I kind of know is playing Baldur's Gate. Do we want to go watch some Baldur's Gate 3? Also, my volume's really low. I can't hear what they're saying. Okay, right. We're going to turn off the background music because I can't hear anything. Stop. Okay, yes, good. And then we're going to go raid Clono. We are going to use the same raid message that our lovely friend M0 came up with, which is the field trip one. I hope you remember it, because I don't. Oh, what was it? It's field trip time. Yes, that's it. Perfect. Thank you. I should just set that as a command, shouldn't I? That would be the easiest thing. So I'm going to copy it, if that's okay. Oh, no, I broke it. Oh no, I'm having another boomer moment. Oh, God. Oh no. Okay. Yes. That's it. That's the one that we're using. Cool, cool, cool. So I'll post it again. Yay. Okay. We're gonna go raid. We're gonna go raid Clono. They're playing Baldur's Gate 3. They are I've kind of known them a little bit, but not as a streamer, so I don't know if they'll realise who I am. So if they're like, oh, who is this random person? That's fine. We just roll with it, okay? Okay, cool. Thank you all for joining. Thank you. And I hope you'll have lovely days/evenings/mornings. And yeah, let's go watch some Baldur's Gate 3. Goodbye, everybody.